Welcome back, Raza. We have a super special guest today. We have Fatima Navarrete, and she is our youth leader, so it's going to be a very intimate episode where she tells us a lot about her life, and she's going to come in and tell you guys a little bit about herself. Welcome, Fatima.
Hello.
How did I roll my R?
You did pretty good.
Okay,
yeah.
good. She was testing me. She was watching me.
After a couple tries.
After a couple tries, she made sure I rolled that R.
Yes.
So, Fatima, you speak Spanish?
Yes, of course.
Fluently?
Sí.
You were telling me that you spoke it in Mexico when you were growing up in Mexico, and then you came here, right? Is that how your childhood was?
Well, you know, both of my parents, they're fluent Spanish. At home, it's just Spanish. My initial or my primary language is Spanish.
You went to school in Mexico, though, correct?
Yes. So when I was 9 years old, my parents made the decision to go back over there.
You were in fourth grade?
I was in, half of fourth grade. Which I had mixed emotions at the moment. I was very, I was a little bummed out because I'm like, okay, well, I'm moving to a different country. But as well, I was also very excited. We don't have family here. I have one aunt, which is she lives here in Riverside. But we don't really see each other as regular as we should. But I don't, besides my aunt and my uncle, I don't have a grandma, grandpa, cousins, none of that. So I was pretty excited to, move out there. And
because you were going to be with your family out there.
Yeah, because I was,
nice.
Growing up, I always saw my friends just so excited, over the weekend, my grandma's coming, my cousin's
Your first
coming.
gen born here?
Yes.
Your parents born over there?
Yes.
Was it a financial decision, or was it just missing home, missing family while you guys moved back?
I think it was more of a missing home. It was a decision that both of my parents had decided. I have two older sisters, and the oldest one was about to turn 18. And she, here it's... I don't want to say it's a myth. It's actually a thing. Once you turn 18, you're an adult. You're on your own.
Oh, that's not a myth. that's true. Yeah, that's a thing.
So my parents were a little afraid of that.
Okay.
So they wanted to go back to their roots. Out there is way different. So we my parents, they made that decision. They made their house over there. We moved over there thinking, okay, we're going back to where they're from, and we're going to start a new life out there. And like I said, I was very excited, to finally get to meet, to have a grandma. I growing up, I always just, if I knew, I grew up in a church, and if I knew a sister or a brother that I liked, I would just start calling them aunts and uncles. I had a neighbor that I called her grandma, mi abuelita Julia. She died a couple years ago. She loved me so much. She would make little dresses for me. But she wasn't my real grandma. I just made her my grandma because I wanted a grandma here. So we moved over there, and the moment they picked us up from the airport, that van was packed. And when they say, us Raza, we can fit more than the amount of people that
it's a 5-seater and you can put in 10.
That's right.
Easily.
Plus 10 plus.
Plus the babies everyone carries in the arms.
Yes. And so as soon as they opened that car, you saw my grandma, my grandpa, and like 4 or 5 different aunts and 4 or 5 different cousins, and plus the driver, and I don't remember who else was there.
But it's like there's no time that's ever been in between. It's not your first time meeting. It's not your first day with them. It's almost like you guys were able to connect right away.
Right away. Mija, hi, I'm your grandma. Soy tu abuelita. Soy tu tía. Oh, I'm your cousin. It's like, I was super excited. I was 9 years old. I remember we got there at nighttime, and I was just so excited to hug my grandma.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
My your house still there? The one that you lived in?
Yes. We still have our house.
You guys go back and forth still?
It's been a while. Last time I went there, it was when I was 18. I actually had my sweet 18 over there.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a while, but I do plan to go, hopefully. By next year too. We have the house. It's being rented out right now. So we have plans to maybe get rid of the house already. My parents are getting a little bit too old to go back.
Yeah, it's maintenance too. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And what age were you when you came in? What age were you when you came in here? Like back to the U.S. You started at 9 years old there. You came back to the U.S. when?
So we were there for almost, I want to say almost like very close to 3 years old. So I was there for half of fourth, fifth, and sixth. I was 9, 10, 11. And when I got back over here, I turned 12. Yeah, right away I started school, fourth grade.
What city were you in when you came back?
When I came back from Mexico, Corona.
Right away.
Yes, right away. That's the only city that we've known. We moved away from here, and we came back to the same city.
What was growing up in Corona like for you?
You know what? Corona will always be my home. Will always be the city that I call home. You know, I the same street, D Street, Corona. I grew up in those apartments. I walked on those apartments. I have all my childhood memories there. And I left them there, and then we came back, and my teenage memories.
What were your teenage memories? What do you mean?
I have good memories. But a lot started changing. You know, I think honestly, just a lot of things took effect of my teenage time. You know, in growing up in my childhood, I had very good memories. But you know, all these changes that, you know, happen just do play a huge role in the teenage life.
You were in Mexico from the ages 9, 10, and 11,
yes.
So 3 years, and you jumped back into the U.S. school system right away at 11 years old?
Yeah, 7th grade.
Was it hard making friends coming back just to a new city after spending so much time far away?
Actually, no, because the same friends that I had left in previously in elementary, they were the same ones.
They were still here.
They recognized me right away, Fatima, and that felt good. But the downside of that was I didn't have classes with them because my English was not that good. Living in Mexico, that's all I spoke, Spanish. Actually, you know, it was even cut off for me, English, to speak English. I remember I was at the principal's office in Mexico. This is back in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry if I'm going back and forth. I just want to make sure it's the whole picture, I guess. But we were in the principal's office, me and a cousin of mine, and he previously had lived out here, so he knew how to speak English. So we were very excited to see each other and to speak to one another in English. And he's like, hey, what kind of pencil do you want? And they had the lead pencils and just a regular pencil. And I said, whichever one you're getting, I'll get it. Mm-hmm. And the principal slammed her hands on the desk. And she said, hey, we're in Mexico here. You don't speak English. We speak Spanish here. If you want to speak your language, go back where you came from.
Oh, that's crazy.
So that was it. I never spoke English again in those 3 years I was over there. So that affected me. Mm-hmm. I did it. My sisters, my dad as well, he knew a little bit of English. So, you know, when he just wanted to be silly, and my sisters, when they would just want to, we would, living here before we moved to Mexico, that's the way how we would interact with one another. So when they would speak to me in English, I would always respond back in Spanish. So it affected my English. So coming back in 7th grade, me starting 7th grade, my mom, she took me to get tested before going to 7th grade, starting intermediate school. It's intermediate, middle school. Yeah. And I did not pass the test. Everything I answered was in Spanish. My sentences, sentences were in Spanish. My paragraphs were in Spanish. She would ask me questions.
Well, those are really important learning ages.
Yes.
So I don't really blame you. Yeah.
Everything was in Spanish. And it's so crazy because I have all that still with me. Mm-hmm. And I was going through it not that long ago. And I was like, wow, I was really good. Like my Spanish, they were very just good, you know?
Yeah.
So it affected me. So I was placed in ELD classes where my friends weren't in. And, so yeah, I had to make new friends, but it didn't affect me as much because in the ELD classes, I had a lot of Spanish speaking friends, new friends that I made. So that was fun.
Yeah, and they probably understood you a little better too.
Yes.
The transition.
Yeah, and I was able to help them out as well. But yeah, 7th grade, that's how it was. Once I hit 8th grade, I was in a lot of sports because back in Mexico, that's all I did. I was in Mexico. I was in volleyball, soccer, in track. Long jump.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
They had that in Mexico?
They had that here. They had hurdles. They had, which other one was I in? I don't remember which other. I was in so many sports, but where I was good, I was in track. You guys are not familiar with this, but maybe my Spanish speaking people are. I was compared to, they nicknamed me as Ana Gabriela Guevara. She was known as a fast runner in Mexico.
I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah. So that was my nickname. So every time we would go and compete with other schools, oh, Ana Gabriela Guevara's here. It's like, yes, that's me.
Oh, that's
I was a fast runner. So I continued that in 8th grade. So that was fun. But I think once I hit the transition between 8th grade, the ending of 8th grade, going to high school, my life kind of shifted a little.
So 8th grade to 9th grade, which is our middle school to high school transition, during the summer or like when you started school? When was that hard time?
I think it was at the ending of 8th grade.
At the ending?
Yeah. Because it was when, so, you know, I went to this school where there was 7th graders and 8th graders. That's how our school was. There's other schools that, you know, they have 6th, 7th, 8th. Mine was just 7th and 8th. And when I was in 7th grade, the 8th graders, when I moved to 8th grade, the 8th graders, they moved, you know, to high school, to freshmen. So they would still come back to our school different, with a different mindset. And I had friends from that grade. So, you know, that's when I was just started hanging out with a different crowd than I usually was, than the crowd that I was used to hanging around with.
What was that new crowd that you were hanging out with?
It was gang mentality. That was the first time. I remember the first time I got to witness a friend of mine get jumped. You know, some of us might recognize it as a gang, clica, crew. I witnessed it in 8th grade.
What do you mean witness? Like, how did you, were you already kind of hanging out with that crowd? So you were there already? Or were you passing by? Like, how did you get to witness it?
I was already part of it. So I had to be there.
You had to be there.
I had to be there. I had to be present for it. I had to be involved in it. I had to take part of it. And it was after school, and everybody was already almost gone from the campus, and we were behind the building, which was the restrooms building.
At school?
At school. This was in school, yeah. And we kind of knew already where there was going to be security, where there was going to not be teachers. You know, we knew the areas.
It was well thought out, well planned out.
Yes. And, well, of course, we didn't want to get into trouble. So we all just walked over there, and we had a jumper. We had to kick her. We had to hit her. And that was the first time that I got to witness and be part of one. And, you know, I didn't have a choice then.
Because if you wanted to be a part of it, then you had
this is something that
participate.
You had to participate. You know, a lot of the people don't really understand that that's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, at least for me, that's how it was for me.
That's the first time you did something with them.
Yeah.
What else did it lead into?
So, you know, that was, like I said, the very first time. So once I hit high school, it was different. It was different. I was more involved in it. I only, in involved, I mean, I was claiming it. This is where I'm from. This is who I hang out with. This is my people. This is the people that I am loyal to. These are the people that I have their back. This is the people that have my back. This is the people we're against. This is, this
the
is
rules
what
are being kind of set in place for you.
This is what this is what we wear. This is what we can't wear. This is who I can be seen with as a girl. This is who I can go, date. This is who I can't date. That's how it was. I don't really know how it just happened. It just did. Once you say
little by little, you're saying that you were on the outside, and then once you look back, like you were already in it.
Yeah, it's and it's kind of like you got to be careful. You can't just say this is who I am or this is what I'm all about. You can't just go out and say that and then the next day change your mind.
Would you say it's a dangerous game to play?
It is. I didn't know it until when I first realized it. I gotta say that when back in 8th grade and I witnessed that and I had to take part of that. That's something that was one of the first times when I was like, wow, this is. I remember, we were jumping this girl and I felt bad. I was like, I can't kick her. I can't hit her. She's my friend. That's my homegirl. I can't do that to her. She's a good person. But that's what it was all about.
Right.
And so, but the first time that Fatima, this is what you're all about was, like I said, it had a lot to do with what you're wearing and what you would say and what you claim to be and what side you were in. I remember I was very loud about, I was not keeping it hidden of who I was and where I was from and what it was that I was backing up. What city was I backing up? I was true to my city. I was true to the people that were in my city. And that said, rivals? We're in there. We did. Yeah. In high school, we did. Like
within the same high school, you're saying?
Yeah.
Did that ever result into anything while you guys were at school?
No. It would just bring another one, or, we would just have to meet up in a different place to finish what we had started.
So you guys were kind of constantly fighting with them, or how did?
Yeah. So, it was, like I said, it was all about cities, where you were from.
Yeah.
City limitations, I want to say.
Limitations.
So, that's what it was all about. And back in high school, we each had our own group. We each had our own areas. You knew better not to cross this end. I knew better not to cross that end. You knew better not to come and speak to me. I knew better not to be speaking to you, not to be even seen walking around in school with you. And if it did happen, if you got caught slipping, you would get checked for it. And that was that was the first time that I got to see, oh wow, this is how deep I am in. I got checked, for saying the things that I was saying, claiming where I was from, saying that what I was backing up. So they had to check me. And what I mean, check me, they wanted to know if it was real, what I was saying, what I was claiming to say. And this person, she was from the same hood as myself. And she was making a lot of noise where she was going around and saying, to her crew and her friends, I need to go check Fatima. I'm going to go check her. She was asking my friends, my group of friends, is she really down for what, she's really down for what she's saying. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where we had to fight for it. I had to show her, yeah, this is who I am. I'm not just here to talk. I'm here to walk the talk. I'm here to do the thing.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Like, you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk.
Yeah.
you said they were all around your same neighborhood, these kids that were kind of checking you.
Yeah.
A little bit of a common opinion we have on the podcast is that a lot of kids that are growing up in these neighborhoods think it's normal to live that way because they don't see anything else.
Right.
What's your opinion on that?
No, that's very true. It is. It is true. It is real. It's there. Like I said, even for me, certain colors I was not allowed to wear.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom, she bought me these jeans I could not wear. She bought me a certain color of shirts. I could not wear them. And it was hard for me to explain it to her. Like, you know, even somebody, you have no idea how many times I had to check a couple of my friends for wearing what they weren't supposed to be wearing. They weren't into the things that I was doing. They weren't. But they were in the same school.
Mm-hmm.
They saw this friend, you know, hanging around with me. So they had to question. They would question her. They would question what was she all about then? Why is she wearing what she's wearing? You know, I had a friend that she just loved Angels, the team Angels, the color red, and so
it wasn't allowed.
It was not allowed. And you know, I got so many times I would have to get checked. You know, where this, you know, someone from my side would come to me, either you check her or I'm going to check you, which is, you know, either you correct this situation or I'm going to come and correct you.
Right.
That's many of the situations that happened to me.
What else do you think is a reason why a lot of people in their early adolescence or in their teen years kind of fall into this lifestyle? Like we talked a little bit about how it could be, you know, you don't know anything else, but what else do you think is there?
Well, you know, there's a lot of reasons. You know, me growing up in this, putting myself in this type of environment, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of them, I had, you know, this girl who had checked me. She comes from a family that they're very well known in Corona, very well known. Their whole crew, their whole gang is just a family.
So it's generational.
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. So that could be one of the reasons.
What was it for you?
For me,
what were you looking for?
Me, it was a little bit different. You know, I was looking for loyalty. I was looking for loyalty obviously in the wrong people. And you know, what drove me to that was, you know, going back when I was 4 years old, I got, you know, sexually molested. And I was let down by the people who were there, who were meant to protect me. And in the way that I say let down was that never was I ever guided to understand why things had happened. And I think, you know, it has a lot to do also within our own raza, our own culture. Certain things we just kind of just, you know.
Why do you feel you were let down?
You know, I didn't get the help that I needed to understand why things had happened.
Did you feel that you couldn't go to anyone to kind of talk to, or you didn't have an outlet where you felt safe?
It was, you know, I think it was more like I didn't have that person to tell me, to say, you know, hey, you know, let's talk about this, you know, and, you know, for me looking back, it's just, you know, my parents, they didn't know how to handle situations like this. And, you know, I've asked why, and the answer that I've gotten is because they were never taught how to handle certain situations like this. So it was something that was just, you know, it happens, you know, like, so this is how I learned how to handle this situation, so this is how I'm going to handle it. So it was just, I felt kind of, you know, as a child, after that, I had very beautiful memories growing up. I had an amazing childhood.
But there was still that kind of dark spot that was still underneath all that, like, happiness and all of those memories, which makes sense. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think another thing a lot of people can relate to is just having a need for loyalty, a need for that friendship or sisterhood or brotherhood for some people. But when you did join your friend group, the gang that you were a part of, did that help you heal that side of you?
No.
Or was it more of a bandage on a scar?
I was looking for protection. Some, loyalty, protection, trust. That's what I was seeking. So when this lifestyle, I was introduced to, I saw that within this group, I had people that were going to have my back, that were going to stand up for me, that if I had a problem, that they were going to, be there for me. That if I needed someone to, help me out in a situation, I can trust in them.
Did you feel at the time that they were there for you?
At the time, yes. Early time.
The early times? Did that, what kind of broke that?
Well, going back to where I saw that I got checked.
Well, oh, really? That was kind of the beginning
that
of
was
the
the
end
beginning,
for you?
Yeah. Because I said, we're from the same, we're from the same.
You're telling her, hey, we're supposed to have each other's back.
I never said that to her, but that's something that I thought.
You thought so. Oh, wow.
That I kind of felt right there like, you let me down.
So you were feeling that betrayal again.
That betrayal,
you kind of had when you were a kid, and
Yes.
it came back in that moment.
Yes.
So once that kind of erased, or like the veil was kind of
it was kind of
being
peeling
tugged
off.
away from your eyes.
Yeah.
So was that kind of when you started changing your friend group, or what did that look like when you did that?
I was very loyal.
You stayed loyal.
I stayed loyal to my friends. To this day, I think every single one of the friends that I still talk to, they can still say the same thing. I was very loyal. I always had their back. I was always the one that they would call, and when they had a problem, they had, hey, Fatima, I was there, and then within that time, I met my husband, Jesse. I actually met him within the same crew.
Jesse is our youth leader too. The one that you just mentioned is your husband. You guys met when you were 15, and you guys have been together all this time. How'd you guys meet? What was that first love story?
So yes, we've been together for 16 years now. And I was 15 when I met him. He was 18 going on 19. But when I met him, the first day I met him, when I first saw him, I saw him in my hood. I saw him in my streets, and he was a new face. And, like I said, I was aware of my surroundings. I knew a lot of, I was very familiar with a lot of the faces, especially from, where I lived. So he was new to the area. So not only was he handsome, but he was new. I needed to know who was he, where was he from, and what was he doing in my area. So when I finally, just decided to go up to him, I actually hit him up. I hit him up. I asked him just point blank, where are you from? I needed to know where was he from.
That's so crazy to think about.
Yeah. And, and I went and I checked him. He makes fun of me because he says that I made him do roll call. Where roll call is where I had him mention names that he knew or that he said he knew. And the reason why I did that, I wanted to make sure that I could go and ask somebody, some of these people, some of these names he was mentioning, that he was cool, that, he was okay.
Did he pass?
He did. Gladly, he did. Because if he wouldn't have passed, I don't think him and I could have been or would have been together by now. Like I said, it was just, that mentality, that lifestyle takes all of you. Mm-hmm. Your mind, you think different. And somebody who doesn't know this lifestyle, looking from out to in, looks at it like, that's crazy. Ain't nobody going to tell me what to do, who to date. But in this lifestyle, that's what it was. That's how it was. So we met, and he was, I have a brother from church that calls us Bonnie and Clyde. He was my ride to die buddy, and yeah. So I met him when I was 15. I told him that I was 17. I was gonna turn 18. I don't think if I wouldn't have lied, I don't think he would have dated me at that time because I was way much younger. But he believed me, and he didn't find out I was turning 16 actually until the day of my birthday. We met on 420, and for May we started going out that same year, and in August was my birthday, and
So he showed up.
Yes,
and he was like, "Aren't the candles missing?"
Yes. Yes, his mom made me a birthday cake, and she called my mom to see how many candles should she buy. So my mother-in-law ruined it for me. Or she tried, but did not succeed. They brought the birthday cake, and actually he took me out to a nice restaurant to eat. And he had a phone, and my mother-in-law called him and said, called them and mentioned, hey, I just found out your Fatima is turning 16. She's not turning 18. So it was a big oops moment, but that didn't stop it. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys stayed together.
Yeah. 16
I'm really
years
happy.
later.
But that's a long time to be together.
Yes.
You guys must have been through a lot.
We have been through a lot. Yeah. I think, sometimes it's hard for us to share our testimony, what God has done in our lives, because they're so similar. We've been together for such a long time that a lot of the stories that he shares, it's like, yeah, that's my story too. When we met, we were in the same, like I said, same lifestyle. We were involved in a lot of street activity, gang activity. We were not only, we were very heavy drug users. Any drug you mentioned it that was available at the moment, we were on it. We were selling it. We were carrying it. We were the people to call. You needed it.
How old were you when you started?
When I started using, I think I started smoking weed at 13. Cigarettes. I started with cigarettes actually, 13. My dad was always a heavy smoker. So at 13, I started smoking cigarettes, and then it went to weed. And then when I was 16, I started using coke and ecstasy. Ecstasy was a big drug in that time. And then 17, 18, pills, meth. 19, 20. It was a little bit of everything. I think shrooms were in the mix too.
And you guys were both?
Yeah. We were both using. We were both selling. With that's we were involved in all that. Some of the stories that I can, like I said, we have similar stories, but I tell him all the time, he has stories that it was just him. I have stories where it was just me. One of the stories that I can share that this lifestyle took me to, while we were just involved in drug dealing. We had to go and do these type of deals where we had to meet the dealer in hotels, and they call them the crack house, and which was just a home where that's all you would see. And this one time we were just from motel to motel making deals to another deal to another deal. And I remember it was one of those moments where I just, I realized, wow, this is where I'm into. And, you don't think about it then, but looking back, it looks so normal to me. It looked like this is normal life. This is normal. I remember we had just finished a deal, and then we started, we were smoking meth in the room, and there was this pregnant girl. She was homeless. And, she comes in the room, and she just lays down, And then, we start smoking meth. We start passing the pipe all around us. And, I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, in my mind, it's just like, no, of course she's not going to, hit it. Like, why would I even try to pass it to her if she's pregnant? I mean, she was like doing weeks, days. She was big. And, at that time it was very hard for me because I think I want to say I was like 19, 20. I had just gone out of high school, so I was like 19. And, Jesse and I, we had been together for a very long time. And I know for some of us, it might sound too soon, but I actually wanted to have kids with him. So, it got me a little excited to see this pregnant girl just with a big belly. And, I remember I even said, oh, can I feel your baby? And she said, yeah, she didn't even care. But so we're all just, passing the pipe around, and she got a hold of it, and she started smoking. I think that was the first time that it made me just, it was one of those moments where I kind of, it was like a pinch me moment where I just couldn't believe it.
It was surreal to you.
You
could not believe
I could not, and then I saw the baby just move. Like that baby you can see that baby stretch that shirt of hers. You can see that, like the little elbows or the little knees, just whatever it was, the baby's limbs was just pushing through the belly. Another story that I can share is, that it affected us both. When he was, I think this was actually, I was like 15. Yeah, I was like 16. We were just going out, and he was, when I met him, he was already in deep.
Okay.
He was
a little older too.
He was a little older, yeah. So he was in deep, and DA was looking for him. And I remember this one time, I was still living with my parents, and he was living with his. And it was nighttime, and I had a little blanket wrapped around me. And I went to go see him. I went to his apartment, and I think actually that night, I think I had a talk with him previously. I had told him, like, hey, you have to be careful. I don't want you getting into trouble. I kind of gave him, I tried to give him an ultimatum, where I wanted him to just think about what he was doing, or to be more precautious, because I knew this lifestyle is not something you just take and leave whenever you want to. So I just want him to be precautious of what the actions that he was and the decisions that he was taking. So I remember I wrote him a letter, and I left them, and then I said, okay, I'm going to go see him. So I had a blanket. I started walking towards his apartment, and to go look for him. But as I'm heading over there, I see his garage just full with a bunch of patrol cars, just a bunch of DEA cops, undercover cops. I mean, a bunch of them.
They were hanging out in your apartment complex?
Yes. And, I didn't think nothing of it until I start, walking towards, because I was behind his garage. So once I started turning to his apartment, to his door, I see his door open, and a bunch of just DEA officers just standing in front of his door. One was, holding the door open. A couple of them were already inside. I see my mother-in-law screaming like crazy. And, my mother-in-law, she doesn't speak English. At the time, my husband's siblings, they were little. I mean, they were little. They were maybe like 5, 6, and 9, I believe. And so, they were little. And I just remember I was in shock. Like, I had just seen him not even an hour ago. So I was like, what is going on? And as soon as they see that I'm turning to his apartment, my mother-in-law screams out, Fatima, Fatima. ask them, where's Jesse? Ask him what's going on.
She's asking you to translate for her.
Right.
Yeah.
And as soon as, they said my name, they said, I remember I heard one of them said, that's her. That's the name. That's her. Get her. I was only 16 years old. They pinned me against the wall. They start searching me.
How many?
It was like, I don't know, at least two of them. One of them had me pinned against the wall, and then the other one was pocket searching me. Males, by the way, males. And I remember, I keep mentioning this little blanket because it just, it's something that stuck with me. They grabbed my blanket, they threw it out, and they just have my face pinned against the wall. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm just so scared. I'm confused. I don't understand what's going on. And then, once they're done inside my mother-in-law's apartment and they leave, they let me go. And,
did they ever even tell you why they were searching
you?
So
when they were leaving, they didn't tell me why they were searching me. They didn't until after, he got out. They told him, an officer told him, oh yeah, we saw your girlfriend, blah, blah, blah.
They told Jesse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell you anything.
They didn't tell me
in that
anything.
Moment,
No.
It must have felt so dehumanizing.
It did.
It would have felt that for anyone, but you were also a child. You were 16 years old. 16,
yeah.
Yeah, that must have been really scary to have all that going on. So they told Jesse what was going on, and then what happened?
So they had him in custody. They took off. And before they left, they told me, we have Jesse, and we're taking him. And that was it. And then, they told my mother-in-law that, they gave him a little business card and, for further information. I'm not sure.
And did she understand what was going on?
No.
Or she just saw them taking Jesse?
No, they had already taken him.
Okay.
When they came inside the house and searched, he was already gone. He was gone. So I'm not really sure how it happened, what happened. But for what I do know is Jesse was going, I think he was waiting for someone. Or he was going to go meet someone, or he was at the gasoline station. We had a Shell right next to us. And he saw one of the DEA cars and, the undercover. And when he saw them, he instant moment where he knew something was wrong. So he tried to go back inside the apartments, but apartment complex had a gate, which it was closed. Once you're out, you're out. So he was trying to jump the fence. It was raining. They just attacked him down. They tackled him down. And the only reason why they knew who I was because they found the letter I had given him.
Oh.
And it said Fatima.
The ultimatum letter.
Yes. It had my name. And when they tackled him in the floor, he was screaming for my name because it was still in the apartment complex. I wasn't far away. If I would have been outside, I would have heard him screaming. But I wasn't. I was inside my home. And so if I would have came out of my home minutes, later, I would have heard him. I would have seen the whole event go down. But I didn't. So when he was screaming Fatima, that's how they memorized my name. And when they saw me, my mother-in-law screaming out my name also, they're like, that's her. So yeah.
You have all these stories to share with us, but what do you think was your rock bottom looking back now?
I think the Lord was already talking to me, and in the way where I never really saw it that way until now, just looking back. I was put in a lot of positions or in a lot of situations where I was able to see this is how it can end up if you continue to go down this road. I think the pregnant girl was one of them. A different one was, there was, I think it was 1920, around there. I didn't have a job at that time. I had just quit my previous job. So I went to this agency where they would hire people, or they would, you would have to show up early and you hang in there for a little bit, and until you got lucky, and they would let you know, hey, there's a spot available at this place. So I went to this agency in Corona, and I went and I signed my name and the waiting list or the calling list, and they said, okay, hang in there, as soon as we find something, we'll let you know. And I said, yeah, I'm going to step outside. I'm going to go have a smoke. I step outside, and while I'm just hanging in there, I see someone that I knew come towards my way. Well, right next to the agency, there was this fashion store. And she was heading there, so she was really excited. She said, hey, girl, what you're doing, and I told her what I was doing. I was waiting for, to get called for a job. And she said, I'm really happy because today's my daughter's birthday. And I said, oh, that's great. Are you going to go see her? And she was super excited because whoever had custody of her was going to allow her to see her for her birthday. And she said, yeah, I'm going to go see her, but I'm going to stop here really quick and get her something for her birthday. So, I said, oh, okay, yeah. She was going to the fashion store. So, I said, okay, well, good luck. And she left, and I don't know how much time passed. It wasn't that long. I don't know, I want to say like 20, no more than 30 minutes. Passed, and I was still outside waiting to get a phone call or waiting for the agency to call me. And I hear her crying and screaming, the same girl, and she's screaming, and she's holding herself. She's trying to hold herself, and before she went in there, she had a backpack, her stuff, and she comes back out, not even with her jacket on, and just trying to hold her stuff, some of her stuff with her hands, and she's crying, and she's even falling as she's coming outside. And I run to her and I said, what's wrong? I was in shock. I said, what's wrong? What's going on? And she starts cussing. She starts saying, this guy with bad words, she kept saying, how could you do that? How could you do that? And, I'm just saying, I'm still trying to, I don't know what's going on. So I just kept asking her, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And she's on the floor. I'm trying to grab her, get her up, and she's not getting up. And then, she says, he raped me. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And she said, guy, he just raped me. And I said, I don't understand how, I was confused. I didn't know how to help her out.
Yeah, how could you?
Yeah, that was the first time I was actually in a situation like this where I didn't know how to help her out, what to do. And then, all of a sudden you see the guy come out, and he's coming out with a cigarette in his mouth, and he's like, don't believe her. She's lying. She's high. He was, in the back, gave me signs like she's high. She's not good. And I knew she wasn't high at the moment.
Because you talked to her.
I talked to her. I knew her. She was from the hood. We made deals with her. I knew who she was. And as she's just crying in the floor, she's yelling, she's saying these things. The agency girls come outside, and they're like, what's going on? And, and I'm like, no, nothing's going on. She said, one of the ladies said, do you need me to call 911? I said, no, everything's fine. And, I'm trying to handle the situation, and I look at him. I don't know how to handle it. The best thing I knew what to do was I said, you know what? Where's her stuff? And then he said, she left it inside. And I told her, we need to get out of here now. They're going to call the cops, and you're going to be taken in too. Let's go. She did not want to get up. And I just remember that I had to force her to get up. And, she didn't want to leave without her stuff. She said, give me my stuff. we had made a deal. Give me her stuff. So that's when it clicked. So she had made a deal with this man to give her clothes for her daughter because it was her daughter's birthday in return of sex, or a favor. But it turned out to be something else.
What did that do to you, that moment do to you? Because you said that was part of your rock bottom, but it was more of you looking outside in. So why did that affect you so much?
Well, it affected me because me as a female, this is the lifestyle that I was in. This is this type of stuff that happens within this game. Sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes you're put in these situations that people don't think of. How many times have I asked, I've only shared this story to a couple people. And most of the time it's because it's very graphic, I want to say. But I think it's also important to share because these are the things that are going on in the city that we live.
It's the reality.
It is a reality. A lot of people, the people that I've shared these stories to, have, asked me in question, and it's fair. Why didn't you let them call the cops? Why didn't you do anything about it? Because this is the game that you're playing. This is the game you're playing. There was this other time where, there was a drug deal had gone wrong, and this person, he got stabbed. I remember we were, he was our neighbor, and he's screaming, his rib cage, you can see them coming out. And, Jesse and I were trying to
help him out,
help in some way. His grandma called the cops, and they're asking questions. Do you think one of us said the name? We knew exactly who did it. But this is part of the game. You chose to be in this game. You don't just get to choose when to leave. There's consequences of it. And they're not good ones, obviously.
Right.
And it's not consequences that you come in thinking, no, I'm going to be careful. I'm going to play the game in a smart way where I'm not going to get into trouble. I'm not going to get myself involved in these things. But you do. Sooner or later, you will. We knew the person who did it. We never said the name. As a matter of fact, the guy was just walking around, keeping an eye what they were going to do with him when they were putting in the ambulance. Somebody could just pointed him out, and nobody did. If somebody would have said a name, yeah, we would have got checked for it. We would have got into big trouble for saying the name.
Fatima, thank you for sharing those stories. I know they're hard to share. They're vulnerable, so we appreciate that. After going through all this ugliness in the world, what started to shift you out of it? What started to take you out of that? What was your inspiration or motivation there?
Looking back, I never really knew what it was that made me realize that this is not what I wanted. Of course, I had these encounters with these situations where I kept thinking, yeah, this is bad. This is really bad. These stories, I've never even shared them with my mom. I've shared one or two, and my mom, when she hears them, she's just like, wow, I never thought, of you going through this or seeing this.
Was it difficult for you to make that transition in your life? What made it easier for you?
I think what, just gave me the last push, I want to say, was having my son. My son was a little miracle. We tried for 2 years, and I was not able to conceive. The doctors had already told me it was going to be very difficult for me due to health issues. And so when I actually found out that I was pregnant, it gave me a new reason to live for, to look forward for. Of course, it wasn't easy. We had to, at the age of 20, my husband and I had to leave our city and move to Washington State. We lived out there for 5 years. And it all has to do with the consequences of the lifestyle that we were in. So we had to leave our families behind and just, move out of the state. And so, that whole transition, it wasn't easy to leave behind. I think we still try to even carry that back to a different state. But my son is the one that just helped me through it all. He's the one that just, I started realizing I don't want this type of lifestyle for my son. He deserves everything. And then coming back from Washington to over here, I was not up for that lifestyle no more. It was something that I wanted to just leave behind and start new. It wasn't easy though. It wasn't, I came back to the same streets that I grew up in, and I not only was I watching my back for myself, but for my family as well, walking the streets with my son and my husband. And so that was difficult. It was difficult for me because I knew I had hurt a lot of people in the past. So I knew that, anytime, somebody can come back and just get even with me. So it was hard. It was hard. But, by the grace of God, my life has changed completely.
When you came back, you're starting to talk a little bit about God. Did you have that change in your spirit or your mind when you came back to California? Or was that in Washington too? When did you start feeling that conviction?
So, I have a mom that she's a woman she's a woman of prayer. She's always been praying for me, always been praying for my husband, Jesse. She was one of those moms that at nighttime I would wake up and my forehead would be all oily because she had anointed me throughout the night.
While you were sleeping?
While I was sleeping, yeah. It's that the anointing oil has this scent, this smell. So I remember I would go to school or go to work and what is that smell? That was my mom last night praying for me. I would go into our room when Jesse, and we lived together already. And as soon as I would touch my doorknob, it felt a little bit oily. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my mom anointing my doorknob. I already knew she had already been inside my room anointing everything that was inside our room. So she's always been, fighting for us and interceding for us. And so, you asked me if, the Lord was already working in me. He was, but I was still running away. I was afraid. I was afraid because I just, I knew that a lot of things were going to be, I knew that in order for me to receive forgiveness from the Lord, I had to learn how to forgive as well. And that included, the person who had hurt me as a child. That's something that I had been running away for so many years. It was something that I was trying to avoid, that I had, learned to not think of for such a long time that I even, for a moment, I thought I had forgotten, that I had succeeded in forgetting. Mm-hmm. But no, I had not. So I was running away from the Lord. I was trying not to. I didn't want to surrender because I knew all that had happened in order for me to receive forgiveness as well, in order for me to be at peace with myself. So, coming back from Washington to over here, the Lord was already working with me. I was, seeing how my son, he was growing, and he was seeing, I remember, hugging my son, and I was a big smoker. And I remember that my son started to kind of pick up the scent of cigarettes, and I said, oh wow, this is not only affecting me, but it's affecting
your
my
son. Started smelling?
My son, yeah. Oh, okay. Like even the diaper bag, and I never smoked around him, but that scent is just, it penetrates you, everything, your hair, your fingernails, your everything. that is yours. So, that's when I realized, I said that this is something I don't want. And my husband, he was just still not doing good. He was still pretty much lost on meth. He was hooked on it still. So it was not only affecting us, but as a family together. My son was seeing the problems that him and I were having. He was hearing us. He was little, but he was hearing everything. He was seeing all of this. There was a disconnect between my son and my husband as well. So I just didn't want that no more. And I had tried it all. I looked into this. I looked, for drugs. That didn't do it. I looked for, alcohol, partying. That didn't do it. I looked for it in people that I thought were loyal, and that's it. They had solved my problem. That didn't do it. I looked for it in music. That didn't do it. I looked for it in different places, and nothing was doing it. I was tired. I was fed up. Not only did I need a quick fix for myself, but I needed it for my family. And that's when, in 2018, I moved to High Grove. And I remember I told my husband, it was a Saturday night, and he worked at Miguel's Jr. out in High Grove. And we didn't have a car. He had a bike, and he would ride his bike. So I remember before he got out of his work, I called him and I said, honey, tomorrow I want to go to church. I don't know how you're going to make this happen, but I need to go. I want us to go to church. So as soon as you get out of work, ride your bike around, look for a church for me. Do not come back until you find a church for me. And he did exactly just that. So he, right after work, it was late at night, and he rode his bike around the city of High Grove. And just right up the street where we were staying with my sister, there was this banner that had Zion Assembly, Church of God, the days and the times of the church. And, it was supposed to, it's meant to be hanging. The banner's meant to be hanging from the four corners, but it was only hanging from two of the corners. And the letters were very faded, as if it was a very old banner, very old sign. You could barely even tell what it said. But he took a picture of it, and he came home. He was really excited. He said, honey, tomorrow morning, I want you to wake up early, because I'm taking you to church. I was super excited. I said, okay. And I remember while we were walking up the street, he said, honey, the sign is pretty old. So just to let you know ahead of time, if we go in there and nothing, we don't see anything, I have another church. And I said, okay. But we were just thinking maybe it's not going to be there because the sign just looked that old. But no, we walked in there, and our pastor, he greeted us, the brothers, the sisters from that church, they greeted us. We felt the love right away. And since then, we haven't left that church. That has become our family. That has been our church. And so, yeah, we've been going there since 2018. We got baptized. My walk with the Lord has not stopped. The Lord is still working in me. Sometimes we think, I had this understanding, I think this is what kept me from coming to the Lord and surrendering myself to Him, was that I felt like I couldn't come to Him until I changed my life around, until I completely stopped doing the things that I was doing. I felt like I had to come as a new me, new person. And it was hard. I always failed. I always found myself being back in the same place where I was at. I always failed. And, it wasn't until the Lord, He spoke to me, you come to me as how you are. Come to me as you are. I'll take care of the rest. He really met me where I was at. He understood me. I lived a life for so long, for so many years, a certain way. My mind, it was different. My thoughts were different. The way I spoke was different. The way how I responded to situations was different. The way how I had conversations with certain people, the way how I was around or, around other people, it was just everything was different than the way how I want to say how I am, how the Lord has changed my life now. And it was something that he had to change, I was going to church. I was still smoking. I was still doing my own thing. And, it wasn't until the Lord, I had to come to him and I said, you know what, this is something that I need help on. This is something that I can't do on my own. I've tried it and I fail. You need to take this away from me. I've tried to do this all my life to try to fix it, and I'm done. I'm tired of failing. I'm tired of not getting something new. You need to take it. I was tired. I was tired of trying. I was tired of wanting or, to do things different, and I always ended up in the same spot. It wasn't until I completely surrendered myself to him and I let him handle it. I can't remember when was the last time that I chose not to go outside for a smoke. All I just remember was I was cleaning my drawers and I was folding my clothes and I saw my stash there and I picked it up and I threw it away.
And that was the vice you had since you were 13, you said?
Yes. Since 13, I'm 32 now. So there was this, I remember there was this one time where I was, like I said, I had my routine. Like I said, I always go back with, this was the way how I lived for so long. I had a routine. Every time I would wake up, I would step outside. Every time I ate, I stepped outside. Before I started my day, I would step outside. I was a smoker, so I remember this one time I had my day planned out. I said, okay, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to go get my chores done. I'm going to cook. I am going to go and pay my bills and do what I have to do. But before I start all that, I need to step outside for a smoke. I was already going to church. I had already been baptized. But, like I said, the Lord was still working in me. These were things that I knew I could no longer just stop or change them on my own. I knew these were things that the Lord had to change for me, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't. So I remember that day I stepped outside and I went outside for a smoke and I came back inside, thinking, okay, I'm going to go on with my day. I couldn't. As soon as I walked in through the door, I couldn't hold in my tears. I was choked. I went straight to my living room and I just cried. I poured myself out on my little white rug that I have in my living room. I poured myself out to the Lord. And I said, Lord, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of depending on substance all the time. I'm tired of having to look forward for something or someone. There's something in me that I'm trying to fill and I don't know how. And I don't know what. And the Lord spoke to me that day. He said, because that is something that's a space that I should only be the one filling in that space. There's nothing else. You've already looked for it. And nothing has worked out for you. Let me take care of that. And I remember I said, you need to take care of it. You do. I'm tired of it. I can't. I leave it in your hands. It is you. That day, it just, like I said, it's just so beautiful because a lot of us who come to the Lord sometimes, who want to come to the Lord, we think that I must change first before I decide to even surrender myself to the Lord. I must stop the things that I'm doing in order for me to have this relationship with the Lord, in order for me to even come to prayer with him. And he's not like that. Sometimes we want to picture a God with rules, with conditions. You can't come to me unless you do it this way. No, it's not. His love is pure, it's clean. It's a love that will have you coming to him regardless of it all. It's a love that will draw you to him. A love that no one from this world, not one man, will be able to offer you that. Not your parents, not your siblings, not my husband, not even my son. His love is unconditional, does not have conditions. And his love is what has drawn me to him. His love is what keeps me going. I still struggle. I've been saved, like I said, I got baptized in 2018. And ever since then, I still struggle with a lot of things. I struggle with my flesh, the needs and the wants of this flesh. I'm human, I always, his love is what has me going back to him. He reminds me I'm still here. I'm not going nowhere. And every time I look back, and just recently I was reminded what he did in that cross for me. He shed his blood for me. He took every whip in his body for me, because I'm a sinner. The depth of sin is death. I'm not worthy enough. No one's worthy enough to die for my sins. Only he is. So every time I'm reminded of what he did for me in that cross, looking back the life that I had, never would have thought that I would be sitting here at 32 years. Not the stories, not the things that I've seen, not the things that I've lived. And knowing that now I'm here, walking, I hear, I go back to my city, and I go through the streets. I like driving through my streets, and I used to not want to drive by there because it brings me really bad memories. But now I go and I pray for these streets. Now my mission is I want to get down the car. I want to get down from the car and ask for prayer and reach souls that are struggling with the same things that I struggle with, that are lost, that are being, lied from, the enemy, putting these lies in their minds and thinking, nobody wants you, nobody needs you. That's the biggest lie. Those people who want to commit suicide, that's the biggest lie. Kill yourself. It will all be finished now. No. There's two destinations. There's one eternal life in heaven and one eternal life in hell. It doesn't end there. It does not end there. That's where I was going. That's where I was at. I didn't care. I didn't care what life I was living. I didn't care the danger I was in. I didn't care if I lived the day of tomorrow. Not the way I was living my life. So, that's where the Lord has me now. And I think that's why I'm just so thriving with working with, being the youth leader and working with you guys. And, because that's something that I've gone through, and that's something that encourages me. And, that I want to be able to help you guys out to understand.
Well, yeah, you've done a great job at, working with the youth, including us. You've changed a lot of our lives. With that being said, to the young audience out there, is there a special message you want to share to them, or anything you want to leave them with?
Yeah, I brought my Bible here with me, but I'm going to share today. I just want to share, come to the Lord. The Lord's waiting on you. Come as you are. There's no need to. You've already wasted time, so much time trying to make it work for your own, trying to, figure things out on your own. How much more time are you going to continue to waste? I mean, looking back, how many times have you failed at it? I know I failed many, many, many times. I've wasted all my 20s. all my 20s, all my teenage years. You know, all those memories that I could have built with my family and friends. It's not worth it. The lifestyle of the street is a lie. And the enemy is going to come to you, try to expose it as, you know, he's not going to come to you and say, hey, you come to me, I'm going to destroy your home. I'm going to destroy relationships. I'm going to leave you broke. I'm going to leave you with mental health struggles. He doesn't come that way. We need to stop thinking that he does. He doesn't. He comes in the most way where, you know, the enemy, he's a liar, and he comes with a bag full of tricks. He's going to come and make it look all smooth for you, all pretty for you, all easy for you, so you can come to him, and at the end, leave you there. That's what he did to me. So I just want to encourage everybody who listens to this, you know, to come to the Lord, reach out to him. He's waiting on you. There's no, perfect time that you need to wait. Just reach out to him. My name is Sister Fatima. I invite you guys all to Zion Assembly Church of God of High Grove. And, you know, if you guys ever need prayer, you can always just try to reach me somehow through this.
We'll have her Instagram down in the description below. Make sure to give her a follow. Do you have anything in your Bible you want to share with us?
Is it okay?
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to go ahead and just share a quick Bible verse here. This is John 3:16. It's a very well-known Bible verse. For God so loved the world so much that he gave his only Son, so that anyone who believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. God did not send his Son into the world to condemn it, but to save it. This verse, when I first heard it, is what broke me in tears, because it says, for God so loved the world so much that he gave his only Son, so that anyone who believes in him should not perish, but should have eternal life. You know, when I first saw the movie of The Passion of Christ, I saw, you know, everything they did to him on the cross, and everything even prior to that, how they would mock him. And, you know, it made me realize that I could have been the only person that existed in this entire world. It could have just been him and I. And he still would have done it all over again just for me. Just for me.
I've never thought of it like that, but that's true.
Just for me. And so that's the same thing that he does for every single one of us. That's his love. All that blood that he shed on that cross. You know, the whips that he took, that thorn, that the crown full of thorn that they pressed on his head. He did that. He did all that for me, and he would do it again without thinking about it twice. You know, and that breaks me every time I think about it, because, you know, for so long I lived thinking my life ain't worth it. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy enough to be loved. I'm not worthy to be respected. I'm not worthy to even live, to exist. But the Lord came and he did that, and is telling me, you are worthy. Look, I died in that cross for you, and I would do it all again.
On behalf of the Raza team, thank you so much for coming on. Again, everyone, her information, her Instagram will be in the description below if you want to reach out to her. She's always open to hear from everybody and share all the prayer with you guys. So thank you, Fatima, for coming on with us.
I really enjoyed this, and you know what? I'm praying for this podcast. I'm praying for the crew, and you know that all that we do, let it be all for the honor and glory of God, for he deserves it all.